Good afternoon. This is a review of the mod for Medieval 2 Total War called Lucium Total War 2.5. This is my perspective and review. They'll be going over things that I find good and bad in the mod. And I understand that there's a 3.0 coming out quite soon, but I want to get this review out before it releases, just so I can provide an extra insight into things that may not have been considered for the new update. I've left timestamps in the description, including some sources of things I recommend, but I do recommend watching the intro so I can provide the reasonings for where my critiques are coming from. And that is mainly for casual players. It's coming from the perspective of casual players, because ultimately that's the main audience and I'm thinking of what they're going to experience. So of course, die-hard fans of Medieval 2, for instance with gameplay, will have all the exploits figured out, but for a casual, relatively new player, they probably won't. So for a conversion into mainly gunner gameplay, it's understanding how they would feel about it and how they would transfer their experiences from vanilla to the mod. Some of the things that I might propose might not be possible, or could just be from personal experience that won't relate to anybody else, but I'm putting them out there just as ideas that I have about the game. So with the outro out of the way, I would just want to say that this review and its purpose is solely to have Lucium be the best mod that it can be, and that it's coming from good faith because I really want to see this game become the best it can. So please don't take it personally if I critique something too hard. It's just that I really want that aspect to become a really good part of the game. First off, the menu. I think it's really good. Definitely the map that it shows for the campaign I really like. And the background image is pretty good and fitting as well, along with the music. You know, you can't not like Ode to Joy. But particularly for the title, where it says Lucium Total War, I'm not really a fan of the solid grey. It could be more stylized like the Medieval 2 logo. So it's just a little thing there. You know, it's kind of a bit too jarring from the theme to have a solid, bold text in grey. So other than that, I really like the menu and I think it's very fitting for the mod. Alright, now onto the map. I really like the map. I think the campaign map looks very good. The borders, I particularly like them, especially in Germany and the borders of the Ottoman Empire. It really sells its shape that you would see historically. The city names are pretty good as well. I haven't really noticed anything apart from 3 possible things. However, one thing that I can't get by is the fact that the settlement name in Cornwall is called Cornwall. I really think that should be something else other than one region of 4 which represents the name Cornwall in the mod. This could be, say, Plymouth or Exeter. Same for the port. That could be somewhere different. Again, maybe Plymouth for the port and then the settlement capital being Exeter. But yeah, that's coming from me being someone of Devonshire. Say, you know, you don't have to change the name of the region, but I do highly recommend to change the name of the settlement and location to a major city, either being Plymouth or Exeter, and maybe changing the port location. Other than that, I think they're all fine. There might be other examples of regions that have the settlement called the region. I know that there's 2 in the Sahara that's called, you know, Sub-Saharan Africa or something. That one I can forgive more because basically there's never really been a major settlement in the Sahara Desert, so that might get a pass. Alright, now on to the units. I really like the unit design for quite a lot of them, especially the new gunners. I think they're really cool, seeing them all firing lines and things like that. And the unit cards, they are pretty good for what they are and do a good job of representing the unit, and it's not difficult to make out what they are as well, especially the ones that show half bodies. They're very good. However, the general appears to disappear at short ranges. The distance when the unit detail goes from high quality to medium quality, I believe. Yeah, it just disappears apart from the sword and the boots or something. The British Canadian Rifleman and the Empiric Rifleman for Britain look exactly the same. I think they have different stats, but if not, it's still confusing that there's two units that have different names but look exactly the same. Here's one of the bigger ones. The Scandinavian Riflemen are silver, meaning they have no texture, it's really weird to see silver men go across into the battlefield. But the Arabian Musketeers, they have very shiny beards, not silvery like the Scandinavian troops, but just very out of place beards, which is weird. But anyway, apart from those, I really like the units. They're some of the better designed ones that I've seen in most Total War mods. I think it's only beaten by maybe Third Age and some in Era's Conquest. Now, on to the gameplay, because it's okay that you have a map, you have the units, you have the quality, but if the gameplay's not good, then it won't attract any attention. Fortunately, the gameplay is very good. I found it very well balanced. Surprisingly, this is Medieval 2. There's balancing issues, but surprisingly, it's pretty even. Talking about campaign. Speaking of campaign, the Ottomans are very interestingly well balanced because they are the biggest empire by a long shot in the campaign, but you've made them, quite a challenge against other factions, say Venice, which I really like, because most of the time in Medieval 2, if you have a big faction, that's it. You are the king and there's no one who can topple you, apart from a better player. But yeah, the AI seems to be really quite mean against the Ottomans, which is quite funny to see. But then again, this is the period of their collapse, so it's very fitting. I also love the unit recruitment and the taxes. That's very creative. I don't play Empire, but I assume the unit recruitment is carried over. If not, then props to being unique, I guess. The new buildings are good. I particularly like the roads and some of the things to gain money, and the way you can set settlements to have specific purposes. The artillery, moving faster in the campaign, is very useful. I found that to be an improvement for unit speeds, because I kind of accepted it in Medieval 2 that they would go slower, but in a game where artillery is more widely used, it just helps so much better that they can go infantry speed. However, gameplay wise and campaign wise, there are little things that I did notice, and this this part may be going into the more personal experience bit, but I found thinking on the terms of a casual player, you get broke a lot easier in the mod compared to vanilla, which is okay for experienced players, where you would get broke quite easily because you play more aggressively. But for a casual player, it could be just a little too much. I think that's probably down to the fact that you have less money to work with, less buildings to build your economy from, and more expensive buildings, probably. I think they're about the same, but by how the economy is run, and I think it has to do with public order as well, it's a lot harder to make money, especially when you have units that have quite a high upkeep. So you really have to leave your cities almost empty if you want to maintain strong defenses on your borders, which is a fair way to play the game, but it leaves less flexibility, I've found. And for the last two things, gameplay wise, they're just little things that I've noticed. But the first one is the Ottoman Empire has, I think, either no watchtowers or very few. And this is weird because Russia has some watchtowers, but the Ottomans don't. So I think that's just, you could add some watchtowers for the Ottomans, but it's not, vital. It's not a game changer or a deal breaker. But the second thing is that rebel ships like to spawn in lakes a lot. I don't know if this is the vanilla AI getting confused with the more abundance of lakes added to the map, or it's probably not intentional, but I find it very weird that there's just these ships and just, yeah, we're gonna guard this lake with all we've got, and the faction around it's like, yeah, alright, we don't care, just stay there if you want, just stay out of the seas. So I don't know if that's possible to change, to highlight them as areas you can't put boats in, or to stop rebel ships from spawning there. I don't know, but it's just a little weird thing that I think could be changed. Now we move on to music. Now I really like music in games when it's done very well, especially if it's tonally and thematically on point, and Lucium is very good with their music selection, so props to the person who put the music in. They're very fitting, very good classical music, and even though classical music isn't written for games, it works well, and it builds up a general vibe of atmospheric, and sometimes it gets you ambitious, and it's all very immersive. So I really like that. So that's definitely my music part of my interests. It's gotten that perfect, I would say. However, there is one piece that I personally don't really like, and that's the Rummel Nouvelle Suite, which is found in the files called Rummel Nouvelle Suites.mp4 in the NE section, I believe. The melody is a little off-putting. It's very fast and a bit frantic, and it doesn't really work well with the campaign. That's usually quite chill. It's just a little off, but that's really the only one that I don't like personally, although I can understand why it's in there. I also have some music recommendations from my own, two in particular that sound quite similar, though I feel could do really well for the Russian campaign, or just any, but one of them definitely should be used for Russia because it's meant for no other nation. The Dance of the Night is a very well-known one that could fit well, and From Russia with Love. You've probably heard that one in some oversimplified videos referring to Russia, and I think that would be perfect to add for the Russian campaign. And even though I really like the fact that all of the music is period, you could expand into music that wasn't made at the time but is tonally appropriate. You know, people like Kevin MacLeod, who makes lots of royalty-free music. Granted, 90% of his music is not appropriate for the game, but mods like Stainless Steel have used some of his, and they fit really well, so I think it's probably worth it to have a look at some of his music and to see which ones would be great, especially for battles. I think that's just about it for the review. Just want to have some final thoughts and a conclusion, particularly about the expansion stuff. You know, I've been given hints that there's some expansions different from the upcoming Latin American War for Independence. That looks very good. I'm quite excited for that. And I'm excited to see if they do other regions, say the Americas, maybe an Indian campaign or something like that. That could be very effective. I don't know if these are going to be released separately to Lucium. I think in terms of if you want the most amount of people to get the mod, then I recommend it being all in the same mod, where you can go to the bat file and click on the one that you want. I don't know if I'm using the correct terminology there, but if you look at the mod Era's Total Conquest, you'll see that it has 12 campaigns with like 200 different factions, and you click on the bat file and you press in a number and it takes you to one of these campaigns, which is very useful. It's all in one place. So I don't know if it's going to be released separately or not, but I do recommend, if you can, to do that, and then Lucium will be just up there in the top 10 Medieval 2 mods of all time, as soon as the base game and expansions are all in the same place, I think. So I think that's about it. Overall, everything is great, like superb. Music is one of my favorite aspects, same for the gameplay. The campaign map, it really sells the idea that it's the 1700s. I think, I don't know what to give for a rating, maybe 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. And of course this is only 2.5. By the time 3 comes out, I'll have a better idea of where the game is headed, but it shows a lot of potential, like a huge amount of potential, and I can really see this being one of the most downloaded Medieval 2 mods of all time. Seriously, it's that good. So these are just my personal opinions. I've tried to be as objective as possible and keep any narrow-minded, you know, one campaign's view of things. But yeah, I've given some suggestions. You don't have to take them up, but you could give it some thoughts before 3.0, and then afterwards I'll probably be making another review just to see the new features and everything about it, and I'll probably make a review of the expansion and maybe others to come. But yeah, 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. Amazing mod, great addition to the Medieval 2 community, and it shows amazing potential. So thank you for listening into this review.